Hey Kinderguppies, Mr. McComb again here. I've got another new book to share with you. It's called Grandfather Clock by Roger Hargreaves. You remember him? He's the author who wrote all the little Mr. and Little Miss books that we like so much. And I've got another surprise here too, a guest narrator who's going to help us read it. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Shack. I sure do miss you all, and I'm really happy that Mr. McComb invited me to read to all the Kinderguppies today.
Grandfather Clock lives in Tick-Tock Cottage.
He's a nice old fellow, and everybody likes him, particularly because of one thing he can do that nobody else can do. He can tell you the time. Now that doesn't sound like something nobody else can do, does it?
But Grandfather Clock doesn't tell you the time like other people tell you the time. Oh no, he turns into the time.
Just like that.
Early one morning, Grandfather Clock was fast asleep in his bedroom at Tick-Tock Cottage. A bird started singing outside his bedroom window, and that woke him up. "Oh," he yawned, "I wonder what time it is."
And he turned himself into the time and looked at himself. The big hand pointed to his number 12. The little hand pointed to his number 5. "Oh, no," he groaned. "It's only 5 o'clock, and that's much too early to get up." So he turned himself back into himself and turned over and went back to sleep.
Later, he woke up again. This time, the big hand pointed to his top, and the little hand pointed to number 7. "That's better," he said. 7 o'clock, and that's getting up time. So he got up.
Grandfather Clock had a boiled egg for breakfast, boiled for exactly 4 minutes. It's quite useful being a clock as well as a person.
And after breakfast, he went for a walk. He met Farmer Smiles on his way to the market. "Can you tell me the time, please?" Farmer Smiles smiled. "Certainly," replied Grandfather Clock.
His big hand pointed to his top, and his little hand pointed to his number 9. "Oh dear," said Farmer Smiles, not smiling. "It's 9 o'clock. I'm late." And off he rushed.
Grandfather Clock walked all morning.
He walked until the little hand had moved from number 9 to number 12. Both hands were pointing to his number 12. "Hello," said old Mrs. Chuckle, who was looking over the garden hedge. "It's 12 o'clock." "That's lunchtime," said Grandfather Clock. "That's right," chuckled Mrs. Chuckle, and invited him in for lunch.
That afternoon, Grandfather Clock continued his walk. He was passing a school when the teacher put his head out of a window. "I know what you're going to ask me," Grandfather Clock grinned and turned himself into the time.
The big hand pointed to his top, and the little hand pointed to his number 3. 3 o'clock, said the teacher. "Time to go home," shouted all of the children in his class. Grandfather Clock walked along with 2 of the children from the school.
"Is it true you can turn yourself into the time?" they asked. "Definitely," he smiled. "Will you come home with us and show us?" they asked. "Certainly," he laughed. Later, he showed them how he could turn into the time.
"The big hand's pointing to your top," cried the boy. "And your little hand's pointing to 7, cried the girl. "And that means it's 7 o'clock, said Grandfather Clock. "And that means it's bath time," said the children's mother.
After their bath, the children put on their pajamas, and Grandfather Clock read them a story. "What time is it now?" they asked when he had finished. Grandfather Clock showed them.
The big hand's pointing to your top, said the little girl. But your little hand's moved on to your number 8, said the boy. So the time is 8 o'clock, said Grandfather Clock. So it's bedtime, said the children's mum.
The children went to bed, and Grandfather Clock went home.
By the time he arrived back at Tick-Tock Cottage, the big hand was pointing to his top, and the little hand was pointing to his number 10. 10 o'clock, that's late.
It was so late, and he was so tired after walking all day, he went straight to bed. In fact, he was so tired. Do you know how long Grandfather Clock slept?
Right around the clock. Thank you for inviting me to read with you, Mr. McComb. I really did enjoy the story about Grandfather Clock.
You are more than welcome, Mrs. Shuck. I was happy to have you work with me. You know what, guys? I had so much fun with this book that I think you should have fun too. Can you go on a scavenger hunt around your house and find all the different sorts of numbers you can? When you find a number, make sure you show it to one of your grown-ups. Maybe they'll take a picture and share it with me. Have fun!